It happened. I shaved. I don't know. I had a beard for a while. I felt like getting rid of it. And so now we're going clean shaven. And I also shaved. It's important. I also shaved because something else happened. I shaved in solidarity with Ange Postecoglou getting cut from Tottenham Hotspur. Now, I didn't do this on purpose, but it ended up being good that I kind of gave this a couple of days. I was out in the Swedish wilderness having fun with my streamer friends, Nim and Yabe, visiting their house after TwitchCon. It was great. But while I was out there, I wasn't able to record a lot of Zealandisms because, in the boonies. And it came out the replacement for Ange. And so I have a slightly different opinion about this firing than I had when it initially happened. But Ange Postecoglou gotten rid of by Tottenham after winning them their first trophy in 17 years, was it 18 years, right? First European trophy since, Gondor called for aid, right? And that's terrible. I think it's a terrible decision to fire Ange Postecoglou because I've gone through layers of thoughts here. But one, if you win a trophy, particularly at a club that has not won a trophy in a long time, right? You should be given leeway to continue that trajectory that you've figured out. In my opinion, it is it's like a crime to fight. Could you have imagined in a million years? What if I told you, right, that before they even hired Ange, right, the Tottenham would hire a manager. That manager would win a trophy in his last match and then get fired. You wouldn't have believed me in a million years. It's insane. Tottenham's whole thing was that they couldn't win a trophy. And now all of a sudden they've won a trophy. They're big shots and they're going to go ahead and get rid of Ange, right? But I understand the counter argument. I do. Daniel Levy has come in with a counter argument. His counter argument being, look at Manchester. I'm assuming this is his counter argument. He's never going to actually tell you the reasons behind it. Just, we decided to move on and we thank him for his service and whatever. You look at Manchester United, right? They won the FA Cup at the end of last year. They decided to keep Ten Hag after fan pressure. And then they didn't do well at the start of the year. And then they brought in Amorim and they were even worse, right? It's possible to make the argument that they should have stuck to their guns. They should have removed Ten Hag, even though he won the FA Cup, and moved on to a new manager, and that life would have then been better if they had given Ruben Amorim, let's say, the entire offseason, right? Hindsight's 2020. Another great example I can think of is Chelsea wins the Champions League. I mean, even bigger than the Europa League, obviously. They go out and they win the Champions League, but they're 12th in the league. And I can't remember what happened with that manager. I think he stuck around a little bit and then got shit canned because Chelsea was bad. I don't even remember the guy's name. I just remember that he didn't stick around long after that. And so just winning a trophy is not the end-all be-all. I mean, it is, right? Nobody's going to be able to take the trophy away from you unless you were found to be financially doping or something. Winning a trophy is the whole point of the sport. You don't get an award for second place unless it's the Olympics, all right? And that's what they did. You can never take that away. Tottenham Hotspur, the Europa League champions, Ange Postecoglou made that happen. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to keep him. I think that there were a lot of other reasons to keep him. I just wanted to get that argument out of the way. Ange Postecoglou was in the hottest of hot seats for a long fucking time there. I mean, so was Ten Hag and all these other guys. He handled it so well. He took a team that was dog water, ass, terrible, and he won the Europa League with it. Granted, he was responsible for the construction of part of that team, but there was something different in what Ange did compared to the guy at Chelsea and compared to the guy at Manchester United, Ten Hag, right, in this sort of situation where you guide your team to winning that trophy. I think he built a cult of personality in a way that Ten Hag didn't. He didn't get anywhere close to this kind of team support and cult of personality. You knew there were guys at Manchester United that hated his guts. I don't remember the guy at Chelsea's name for a reason because that was Didier. He wasn't the face of it in the way that Ange Postecoglou was the face of it. Right? It felt like a player-run thing. Now, obviously, he won the Champions League. He deserves the ring. I'm not saying he was an undeserving manager. I'm just saying Ange Postecoglou was the fucking face, and the whole team loved him. And he managed the year before and got him in the top 5. So he's clearly not incapable of managing in the Premier League. Right? He managed the season before and got them in the top 5. And when I say the players love them, look at this stuff. Yves Bissouma shared an exchange he had with Ange Postecoglou. It looks like WhatsApp, right? Big Ange texting in. Great guy, by all evidence. Sorry I missed your call. I'm very proud of you. It was an honor to share a dressing room with you and appreciate how much you believed in what we were trying to achieve. I wish you only the best for the future. I will always be following. Much love from my family to yours. He said, thank you, Gaffer, and thank you really much for everything you did for me on and off the pitch. I'll always be grateful for the way you believed in me and trusted me. It was incredible. I was going to miss you, and it's why can I not read this? I'm going to miss you, but it's football life. I got a lot to say, but I think you know what I'm thinking about. I think you know what I'm thinking about. So I just wishing you all the best. Hey, I mean, look, Yves Bissouma, don't really understand this. You get the general idea. You know, I think he's saying, I think you know what I want to say, but I'm not going to say it. Like maybe that you shouldn't have been fired and all that sort of stuff. Also, I'm never dissing anybody for not speaking perfect English. I literally only speak one language fully. So anybody that's able to effectively communicate in more than one language is already kicking my ass. I'm just making an apology for not being able to read that thing in the first place. Son Heung-min called him a club legend. Right? I mean, these guys really, really loved him, right? Dominic Solanke did a nice little post. Pedro Porro did a nice little post, with them kind of hugging Richarlison. There's Son's post. You've got Kevin Danso. We accomplished something special. Like there was a lot of like mutual love and admiration. And I think that Ange should have stayed. And I think maybe the best option for Tottenham is for Ange to have stayed, because this victory gives you a great opportunity to make last season's performance in the Premier League a blip. Because he has the cult of personality now. I'm a big believer in the cult of personality. And if you win a trophy with Tottenham, when you say, I'm going to win a trophy, I always win a trophy in my second season, and you have the love of the fans, you have the love of the players, you have aura. And aura counts for a lot, because belief is half of the game. You got to believe you can do something. You got to believe that you can win, right? The mental side of all of this. I mean, Tottenham Hotspur with Ange Postecoglou at the helm was going to hit next season flying. There was all that weird toxic shit around Ten Hag and all that stuff. Like, you didn't get the same feeling that they were going to hit the ground flying. Tottenham Hotspur really felt like they were going to hit the ground flying, because Ange was the face of all of this, and he pulled it off. Obviously, I think he's a good manager and everything else. I just think riding that wave made a lot of sense. While there are good examples of managers staying too long after winning a trophy that I tried to cite, I think Ange Postecoglou separates himself from that in a way that would have made it very smart to keep him. But at the end of the day, how much can you really argue with the firing, right? I know a lot of the fans are super mad and they want to get rid of Daniel Levy. Always stop that, right? There's so many worse owners than Daniel Levy out there, you have no idea. That's like firing a coach. That's like firing Arsene Wenger and then ending up in the woods, right? Like that's the sort of, if you want to get rid of Daniel Levy. Is he the best owner? No. Most owners are way worse than him, though. So all the people that want to get rid of Daniel Levy, I don't necessarily agree with that either, because look, this guy finished like what, 17th in the Prem? 16th, 17th in the Prem, bottom half of the league, a lot of the year. Ange Postecoglou the team was shit. And if they wasn't in Europe, he would have been fired before the end of the season. And that would have been fair. And nobody can really say anything bad about that. Because I feel like in a lot of ways, people are looking at 8th or 9th and making that the same as 16th or 17th. Depending on what year this was and the point totals that other teams were getting, if there weren't 3 absolute dog shit teams in the Premier League this year, they could have gotten relegated. They got enough points where it was possible for them to be relegated. That's insane considering the resources and the talent of a team like Tottenham. So even though they did win this trophy, and even though I do think that Tottenham would have been at its best if it had kept Ange Postecoglou, it's hard to look at this firing and go, yeah, that was completely unjustified. Because he did put in like the worst Premier League season Tottenham's ever had. I don't think he would have done that next year. I would have kept him. Just because of all of the stuff that I've already talked about that was built into winning that trophy. But an Ange truther, have to acknowledge that it's justified. And it makes a little bit more sense when you look at who they brought in. Okay, because Thomas Frank is one of the sought-after managers in the world of football, right? He's had Brentford humming for years, right? He spent 6 years at Brentford building a well-oiled, mid-table, European-threatening machine out of a club that, quite frankly, does not have any business being at that level, finishing well above Manchester United and Tottenham, for example. Right? I think Daniel Levy, and I would not be surprised at all because these guys are maneuverers. None of them do it at the level of Real Madrid, obviously, and Don Florentino Perez, but all of these guys are kind of playing the same game here. I would not be surprised if Daniel Levy had already basically confirmed that Thomas Frank was going to be the new manager, and he would have kept Ange if not. This is one of the guys. And not only is he one of the guys like Amorim, where, well, let's find out if he can do it in the Prem, this guy's doing it in the Prem. He's already doing it on this stage with less resources and worse players. Thomas Frank, based off of Premier League takeaway over the last couple of years, is a better manager than Ange Postecoglou, just in the results he's able to get in the Premier League. Now, Ange is an inspiring leader that's able to go get that European trophy, but there's nothing that says Thomas Frank can't go and win trophies at Tottenham as well, because he's getting more of those resources. And now, there's going to be a bit of an element of fear at the beginning, right? Because if Thomas Frank starts poorly, you're going to start to hear the Ange kind of, maybe even chants in the stadium of Ange, right? People are going to be calling for Ange. Why did you get rid of Ange? But if he starts well, that'll fade. So it's going to be a dicey early going. But I love Ange. They should have kept Ange. I think this firing is insane. I think you also, even if you think this firing is insane, you have to acknowledge it is justified based off of league performance. Trophies are the end-all, be-all of the sport. But it is a justified firing based off of league performance. And it's even more justified when you realize that Daniel Levy was sitting there with Thomas Frank in his back pocket, which is a pretty freaking good move. This is a pretty shrewd hire. It could blow up in his face. Ange is going to be lurking over his shoulder, and it could completely blow up. But I like it. I think it's actually a smart hire. If they had gone out and hired somebody bad, then I probably would have been, I would have been a lot more befuddled by this whole move. But I should have assumed that if Daniel Levy was willing to wear the firing of Ange Postecoglou, the man that finally brought them a trophy, I should have assumed that he was wearing it for a good reason. And it turns out he was wearing it for a good reason. I'm excited to see where Ange Postecoglou ends up. I have no idea. All I know for sure is that they will win a trophy in their second season.